Most companies that deployed AI in the last 2 years think they're ahead. They moved fast, they integrated tools, they have dashboards showing usage, and most of them are now sitting on risk they haven't measured yet. That's not speculation. That's a pattern I've watched develop across companies in regulated industries, insurance, accounting, healthcare. As they moved from AI experimentation into something more operational, the tools that felt like progress in year one are now producing consequences that nobody planned for. This is an AI clone, on purpose, because AI is already embedded in how I work every day. I build with it, I deploy it, I live with the results. My name is Ronald. I run Data Wonder, a company that builds AI automation and voice agents for businesses that handle sensitive data, complex processes, and high operational costs. This channel exists because most AI content doesn't come from that position. It comes from people watching from the outside. I'm building from the inside. There's a difference. If you care about what AI actually does inside real companies, not the theory, not the hype, subscribe. That's all we cover here. Now, let's talk about where things go wrong and why companies don't see it coming. There's a belief that drives most AI adoption inside businesses. It goes something like this. If AI is helping, more AI helps more. If the tool is working, expand it. If it's saving time in one department, roll it out to another. The logic feels sound. But there's a phase that follows that expansion. A phase most businesses are not prepared for, and by the time they recognize it, they're already in it. I'll tell you what that phase looks like. But first, the pattern that leads to it, because it's almost always the same. A company starts with a reasonable use case, something low stakes, high volume, document processing, email triage, scheduling. They automate it, it works, and the confidence goes up. So they move to the next thing, then the next. Each step feels like progress. What they don't realize is that every automation layer they add is also expanding the number of places where something can go wrong. And in regulated industries, something going wrong doesn't mean a slow afternoon. It means compliance exposure, data handling violations, client trust, broken quietly and then all at once. The tools that were saving them time in month 3 are now part of a system that nobody fully understands. Have you seen this inside your own organization? Not necessarily in those exact terms, but the feeling that the AI layer has grown faster than the oversight of it. That's usually where the risk phase begins. Not with a single bad decision, with a collection of good decisions that were never looked at together. Here's what I observe in the field. When companies start with AI, they typically assign ownership informally. Someone champions a tool. Someone else integrates another one. A third person uses an API because it was faster than waiting for IT approval. Each of those people made a reasonable call in isolation, but no one is looking at the whole picture. The AI systems are now touching client data, financial records, and in some cases, health information. And there's no clear map of how that data flows. There's no one accountable for what happens when an automated process produces an incorrect output. There's no protocol for what gets logged, what gets audited, and what doesn't. And this is where the risk isn't theoretical. It's sitting in the system, live, right now. If that sounds uncomfortable, it should. But here's what I want you to notice. This isn't a story about bad technology. The tools themselves are often doing exactly what they were configured to do. The problem is the space around the tools, the decisions that were made or not made before and after the deployment. That's the gap. And it almost always comes down to the same 3 things. First, ownership. No single person inside the company has a full picture of what AI systems are running, what data they touch, and what happens when they fail. The deployment happened in pieces. The accountability is scattered. Second, expectations. The people who champion the tools sold them on what they do when they work, not on what they do when they don't. So when an automated process produces a bad output, and at scale it will, there's no pre-built response. No one knows if they should trust the output, override it, or escalated. Third, second-order effects. Every AI system that touches a process changes the behavior of the people around it. Sometimes that's good. Often it creates a new dynamic that nobody anticipated. Staff start deferring to the AI output even when their judgment says something is off. Because the system said so. Because changing it is friction. Because no one built a culture that encouraged challenging the output. That third one, that's the one most companies miss entirely. And that's not even the deepest layer of this. I'll get to that in a moment. But first, if this is making sense so far, hit the like button. It helps more people find this kind of analysis. The question at the 60% mark is always, so what do you do about it? And I'll answer that. But what I want to establish first is why this risk phase is not the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of a more important one. Because here's what happens when companies do catch up. When they do put governance in place. When they do assign ownership and map their data flows and build proper oversight, they don't just reduce risk. They unlock a different kind of capability. The companies that go through the risk phase properly, not by slowing down, but by building structure around their AI systems, come out of it with something that most of their competitors don't have. They have auditable AI, traceable decisions, accountable outputs. In regulated industries, that's not just a nice to have. That becomes a competitive advantage because their clients, their regulators, their auditors can actually see what the AI did and why. That level of transparency is rare, and the companies that get there first are not going back. Now, the second-order effect that most people never see coming. When you build AI systems with proper oversight, with clear ownership, clear failure protocols, clear data handling policies, something unexpected happens to the humans inside that organization. They start trusting the AI more, not blindly, intelligently, because they understand what it can do and what it can't. They've been part of a process that took the system seriously, and that changes the relationship between the human and the tool in a way that nothing else does. The companies that skip the governance phase don't get that. They get staff who either overtrust the AI and catch errors too late, or who distrust it entirely and work around it. Neither is efficient, neither is sustainable. The risk phase isn't a sign that AI is failing. It's a sign that the first generation of deployment is maturing, and the companies that navigate it well will run differently than the ones that don't. What I'd encourage you to do, if you're inside a company that has deployed AI in the last 2 years, is ask a simple question. Not, is it working? Ask, do we know what happens when it doesn't? If the answer is unclear, that's the place to start. Not with more tools, with more clarity around the ones you already have. Leave a comment below with what you think the biggest gap is in your organization right now. Ownership, expectations, or the second-order effects on human behavior. I'm curious what people are actually running into. The patterns are more consistent than most people realize. If you've been deploying AI in your business and you're starting to see the dynamics I described today, unclear ownership, untracked data flows, no protocol for when things go wrong, and you want a clear-eyed look at where your exposure is, book a free call with me. The link is right below this video.